Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here. Sorry about that, I muted Mike. And this is my Centipede Scourge Righteous Fire style build. I'm not really sure what to call this just yet. Put something down in the comments down below. Let me know what you think this build should be called. Pretty much we're stacking Scourge here and making it do tons and tons and tons of damage, which is pretty neat, I think. So Scourge, normally, all it does is it fears and slows enemies around them while applying a pretty sizable poisoning over 11 seconds. And this normally shouldn't be able to carry any damage, except we are using Menacing Aspect. And what Menacing Aspect does, I'm going to switch to the other side here. Menacing Aspect makes it so that Scourge continuously affects enemies around you for up to 13.5 seconds if you happen to get lucky and have the aspect here on max on Amulet. And so that pretty much leaves this green ring of death around us. Now the interesting thing about this is everything inside the green ring will be taking damage over time. It'll be stacking up on them, and then on top of that they will also become feared and slowed the moment that they touch the ring. So they do take quite a bit of damage. Now the real magic is kind of coming from the fact that we are abusing the resolve crit stacking situation that's going on right now. So if you don't know, basically interdiction here makes it so that you get block chance per resolve stack, and we can stack up a ton of resolve, and our gear is pretty much dog right now. There's a whole bunch of power that we can get from putting more resolve stacks both here on our pants and on our amulet. And so when we get all those in there, we get the redirecting force aspect. Gives us critical strike damage equal to 116% of our block chance, and blocking that doubles that for 10 seconds. So if we just go here to defenses, you can see I have 100% block chance right now, and then I have 5,500 critical strike damage. And if I activate Armored Hide, it gives me even more block chance and even more critical strike damage. Now this is incredibly important for one of our points here, which is Noxious Resonance. So this gives us your critical strikes cause your poisonings on an enemy to burst, dealing 100% total poisoning instantly to them and 20% of it to surrounding enemies before removing the poisoning effect from the primary target. This damage is increased by 30% of our critical strike damage bonus. As you can see here, just baseline right now is like 1600. If I activate Armored Hide once again, that number goes up even more. So that is a gigantic multiplier for our poisoning damage. Just absolutely just ridiculous. And it creates a situation where you can pretty much vacuum enemies together using Vortex, and you just have one little crit pop off on them and they all explode into bombs. And luckily, we kind of get automatic crits from Toxic Skin here. So Toxic Skin's measured Toxic Skin makes it so that while Toxic Skin is active, you deal an additional 21% poison damage as critical strikes to nearby vulnerable poison enemies. So you vacuum them all in with Vortex. Vortex knocks them down because we get a barrier from being Gorilla Hall, and then we hit them with Stinger, which applies vulnerable to enemies as long as we're healthy. We apply vulnerable to them for 3 seconds, and then the Toxic Skin basically annihilates this giant poison that's on them for quite a bit of damage. Now this build still has a lot of scaling to do, but I think that it's going to maybe have some issues after the viscous barrier bug is gone and the redirected force bug is gone, but hopefully they'll give it some buff and some love as well. I'm going to go over the gear real quick. We're doing Harmony of Ebawaka. At first I thought we were going to need to use Loyalty in order to give us a ton of cooldown reduction. However, this just provides way too much damage to avoid. Also, going Gorilla Hall gives us survivability with Barrier. It also gives us Barrier, which gives us more damage with Viscous Shield. It's just really too good. And also our Spirit Hall is Gorilla Jaguar, and going Centipede I think is just bad in general. It doesn't provide any damage. It's only damage reduction, and that doesn't help you really kill enemies quicker. So I think that this is probably the best combination here. Now for our chest armor, we're using the very scary Jacinth Shell. Jacinth Shell makes it so that every second, each of your active cooldowns will drain 10% of your maximum life to reduce their durations by 3 seconds. And so our Scourge is primarily draining our life in order to reset itself. Now, Jason's Shell does make it so that when we spend Vigor, we get 10% of our maximum life back. And so we need to find a way to spend Vigor continuously so that we can avoid murdering ourselves with our own body armor. And the answer to that is going to be starving Ravagers. This makes it so that Ravager no longer has a duration and instead drains 13 Vigor every second until it's depleted. And effects which extend Ravager instead generate Vigor for us. And so this pretty much allows us to activate Ravager, and it will heal us as it consumes resources. And our Scourge also generates resource for us, so we're able to heal ourselves, especially once Ravager is no longer on cooldown. We're able to keep our Vigor and health bars pretty healthy here, just from this nice rotation. I do recommend having a pretty high roll on the unique part of this. I would say priority here is having like a 9 or a 10% on the unique aspect roll at the bottom, and then masterwork or GA life, and then probably GA damage reduction while injured. Ideally, you don't want to get injured all that much, although I could totally see a situation where instead you go GA damage reduction while injured, and then triple masterwork on it to make it so that your injured part of your health bar is like super thick. That is what it is. We're doing unyielding hits. Every single one of our attacks is going to be a gorilla skill. And unyielding hits, I think, is just probably overtuned because this allows us to stack up to, I believe, 5,000 armor here to increase our base damage. We can see here that this says that it's going to be applying 25,000 poison damage. And then if we activate it, that number goes up by quite a large number. And that's why armor stacking is just really, really strong. Pretty much for every build right now, especially you can find a way to get gorilla in there. Once again, and so for the other stats here, life, armor, crit strike damage is really good. Scourge size, I think, is okay. I almost want to go vortex size instead because Scourge does scare enemies. This isn't necessarily all the best gear. I would recommend highly looking at the builder. I have like pretty much best in slot gear on there, but for the most part, just giving you an idea of these different like aspects we're using. Interdiction, we already talked about. Getting max resolve stacks here really good. Apprehension makes it so that once the enemy is slowed, they become feared, and then we deal increased damage to feared enemies. We automatically just fear enemies, so this is pretty good. Redirected force here, really good. I want to talk about the tempers here real fast. Critical strike damage obviously helps our key passive explode, but then Scourge poisoning duration extends the duration of the Scourge poison here, making it do more damage. So as opposed to being, I don't know if this actually updates on the tooltip. Yeah, so it does quite a bit more damage here. We just put this back in here. We see it does 140% weapon damage over 6 seconds. But if we put this in here, it's now 261% poisoning damage over 11 seconds. And I'm glad that actually updates. But what that means is that you are going to be popping a much larger poison explosion as you're running around. Menacing here on the amulet. I think the armor and cooldown reduction are probably both pretty important here. Defensive cooldown reduction also pretty important. Maximum resolve stacks. Right now I have movement speed. You probably get damage here or something. I just kind of want to go fast. It is what it is. Alacrity on ring. This helps us reset our cooldowns even faster. This definitely does help a little bit. If I take off the Jason's shell here, you can see the cooldown of my skill ticking down a little bit faster than it would normally. And when you combine the two of them, the cooldown does come down relatively quickly. And realistically, you just want to get as many Scourges out there cooking as possible so that you can, keep going. Now note, you cannot kill yourself with Jason's Shell. You will go down to 1 HP. And the more cooldowns you have, like cooking, if you would, or cooling down, the more your HP is going to be drained. So kind of keep an eye on that. Now, if you do activate Stinger here, that will heal you as well because you are spending resources, but you don't want to spend too much that your Ravager accidentally falls off. Lastly, we have the Starving Ravagers that I talked about, and this pretty much just allows us to kind of stay smoothly up. Ideally, I would find a way to drop Jason's Shell altogether. I just have to find a way to get a tremendous amount of cooldown reduction, maybe on boots or something else in order to drop this down. Maybe it's something that we can work on in the future, but this is kind of just like the stage 1 for the build. Right now I'm using Variana just to try to like get maybe a little bit more healing here. Also, we're going and using Raher with Bastion become injured. For the skill tree here, all of this will be in the planner down below, but we're just putting points in here, a little bit of points in Stinger because we have to. Going down through here, stacking up Toxic Skin, because Toxic Skin, when you have 5 ranks in it, it goes from being like 39% damage over 3 seconds, whereas from rank 4, rank 5 goes up to 70% damage over 5 seconds. So it does quite a bit more damage here. So enemies that hit you or hit by the trail is very, very powerful. Also, while Toxic Skin's poisoning is active, the amount is increased quite a bit here. So you can see when active, Toxic Skin's poisoning is increased. It's right here. It's 78% over 3 seconds. And if we, put one more level in, I don't know why this is doing this. Put one more level in, it goes up to 140. And so that is quite stinking powerful. Ravager, we're going to go down here to the one that stockpiles healing. The reason we do this one is because this allows us to hit elites more frequently. So anytime that we actually cast Scourge, it's going to hit with the Ravager. Anytime that we walk an enemy into our range with Ravager, it's going to hit them 4 times. This is very important for Potent because we're going to hit them a total of 100 times in order to stack up that damage, which is pretty nice. Scourge, we're going to get the maximum vigor generation. This just kind of lets us like gain vigor, lose vigor, back and forth type of thing. There definitely is a potential where we don't use this and instead go over and take adaptable. I don't know if like we actually gain enough vigor here to truly keep our cooldown up all of the time. And also this would be very relatively difficult to kind of like even use Stinger. Whereas as it is right now, it's pretty easy to use Stinger to attack stuff. But Stinger does have a 40 vigor cost, which is pretty high for a skill. Putting more points into Armored Hide just allows it to stay active longer. So you can like not have it cooling down. And this does give you maximum resolve, which I think is pretty important because we're scaling off of resolve. And then all of the passive stuff. Ideally, I would find some way to get all of the ultimate stuff in here yet. That's not something we can do just yet. Maybe if we can drop the Ravager in the future. And then for Paragon, I'll put all the Paragon stuff in here. Right now we just have Bane, Colossal, Fester, Spirit, and Turf. And the boards we're using are Viscous Shield, obviously, because that's very bugged right now. Convergence, Sapping, because we're spamming, we're spamming this skill all the time, so that we're going to be getting vigor back from that, which is kind of nice, but also getting increased damage for 5 seconds. And then we're going out here and getting Revealing. Doing damage to crowd controlled enemies is kind of a no-brainer. We apply crowd control to pretty much everything that's near us, and it's pretty fun. This build definitely isn't the fastest build or anything like that, and it's certainly not min-max just yet, but I thought that the idea of having a giant green, like Righteous Fire style skill would be pretty appealing, and it's been pretty fun. Definitely just very funny to watch enemies explode and die and just get burned down. And it's just pretty easy and simple build to play. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know what you think the build should be called, and we'll see you again soon.